difficult day. A lot of people across the country. So
yeah, thinking of everyone. That's really what it is. You think of everyone, and they're still colleagues, still friends. It's just they'll be in different sets.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And listen, what we do here on this show is entertaining. We talk about sports, and we go from the lowest of the lows to the highest of the highs last night with the Stanley Cup, which was handed out in Vegas. And I know on the show yesterday you guys were debating, what would it be like, the celebration, if the Golden Knights won? They won 9-3. That game was decided pretty early in the game. You knew it was done. And they took it to Hakkasan. I saw Jack Eichel celebrating. It was probably quite the night on the Strip. And my understanding is Saturday evening at 7 down the Strip is the Golden Knights parade. I cannot even fathom what that city's going to look like.
Noodles, you're a Vegas expert.
Yes.
I actually think Vegas, look at this, Vegas might be the one city where guys, after 48 hours, just tap out and say, I got to get the hell out of here and I got to get home.
I agree. It might be Jokic. Honestly, it might be I got to get out of here. What time? Yeah. Because I'm a guy now, as I get older, Vegas for 3 days is I'm full. It's usually 2 days hard, 48 hours, and you're in and you're out, and you sleep when you get home. You sleep on the plane. But it's 3 days is perfect amount where you go hard that first night, you rally the second night, and you know that you're there that third night, so you just dig in. And it's, vodka, Red Bulls, or whatever gets you through. But honest to God, all I could think about is these guys. This is the amazing part. What time do parades start? Usually, are they noon, 1 o'clock?
In the afternoon, yeah.
It's 7 o'clock. That's noon in Vegas, 7 p.m. That's the crazy part. Because nobody goes out at 7 o'clock. Usually you've had a full day at the pool, you have a little siesta, and then you dig back in at 8, 9 o'clock for dinner, and then you go out because bars close at 4, 5, 6, or they don't close. And when security just says, get the hell out of here, you're tapped out. That's basically Vegas in a nutshell.
It's going to be one of the wildest few days for those players and for the Golden Knights fans. I mean, they have endured so much over their franchises.
I was thinking last night how many people.
6 years, man. That's a tough
the people
slog.
from around the world that were just in Vegas to get hammered or gamble. Walking by the arena, seeing all the people out, they were probably I wonder what the hell those people were doing. They probably had no idea that the Stanley Cup was being handed out in the rink, and there was a bunch of people standing outside of it screaming. But as far as what went on the ice, guys, it's just crazy how, Chicago won on skill and talent and leadership from Taves and stuff, but you go with what Los Angeles did and what Tampa Bay did with their blue line and added up front. I'll tell you, it seems like a lot of it goes back to size, speed, skill, and the size and speed and grit, physical play. Physical play was so important for the Vegas Golden Knights. If you watch the way their D-corps played and the way the whole team, it was almost like they were the one administering the punishment and they were dishing it out. And it didn't seem like, I'm sure they're going to have a lot of ice bags and their injuries are going to come out. But it seemed like they punished the opposition and they really put a beat down on them.
Well, I think you're spot on. In physicality, it's not what it once was in the National Hockey League, but it still has a place.
Not what it once was. AK, do you know how many texts I get in emails where people are like, all you talk about is physicality and finishing your checks, and that's not the way the game's played now. Okay, did you watch that?
Well, and
did you watch that for 2 weeks?
Well, and if you allow me to finish, Joe, I will say that the Keegan Colasar hit on Matthew Tkachuk was a series-changing hit. So you talk
and that's why you finish your checks every time.
That's exactly it.
You never know when a bone-crushing check like that might take one of the best players on the other team out of the game.
Right.
But if you don't hit anybody, it's never going to happen.
I've noticed that as it goes deeper in the playoffs, the resiliency of the group. You and I were talking off air, AK, about what's a crazier storyline? Vegas obviously winning in 6 years, or what Florida did to get on the ice. You look at the laundry list of injuries and some of the things that guys were dealing with, and every team has that. It just makes it a lot easier when you win. I would love to know what guys are, battling nicks and bruises and cuts and all that in the Vegas dressing room. But that was a mash unit, it sounds like, for Florida, especially a guy like Tkachuk and Ekblad broke his foot in Boston That was the crazy one. Like, this guy broke his foot and separated his shoulder twice during the ride and found a way to do it. But man, oh man, like the storylines out of this, you come back to the style of play. It's playing for keeps. It's physicality. And if I'm a copycat general manager, the first thing I'm looking at is my defensive core and say, would it hold up against one of these, especially Vegas? Like, they are the gold standard of the way that team is built. And we can argue later about, well, they were over the cap, $96 million, and they hit players and that. Hey, other teams did it too. They just didn't win the cup.
That's it. Mark Stone was on the IR. They bring him back, and he scores a hat trick. He's the first guy to score a hat trick in a cup-deciding game since, I think it was Babe Dye in 1924. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, and Stone was hunting for it at the end, eventually got it after a number of attempts.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the physicality, I mean, what Vegas represented on the back end, they were all just monsters, just hulking monsters out there and beating down on Florida time and time again.
Yeah.
And I think one of the enduring storylines we'll remember from this Cup final, guys, is not only what Vegas did and the team they built, but just how much Florida had taken out of them over the course of the playoffs. Like Tkachuk playing with a broken sternum, something that you also did back in 2004, Jamie.
Yeah.
So you could speak to that. And the Ekblad story, Ratko Gudas was playing with a high ankle. Sam Bennett is broken. I mean, they had a lot of wear and tear on them. And ultimately, the healthier team was just the better team. And Florida had nothing left. In Game 5, we saw it last night.
Well, I don't know how you feel. Like, that was an ass beating. Like, it really was.
Yeah.
Halfway through that game, it was done. And, like, the minute Vegas smelled blood, like, I thought they had a careful start, kind of a calculated, like, hey, they were almost
They were
afraid
actually a little
to
bit
lose.
sloppy to start.
I agree. I thought they were afraid to lose that game, to start the game. And Florida had a couple good chances. I thought the goalie made a couple good saves. And then the minute they smelled blood, like, Stone scores that shorthanded goal, and it's like, okay, now we can pour it on here. They didn't look back. Like, that 7-minute sequence in the second period, like, that was game over. They might as well just ran straight time after that. Like, that was...
That segment in the second period was exactly what they did in the first period against the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
It was... And I tried to explain it last night on SportsCenter, and it was just like... When the coach has a checklist and he walks in the dressing room before the game and he's got his piece of paper and he's like, guys, let's be engaged. Let's be physical. Let's get on pucks. Let's cycle them. Let's wear down the opponent. Like, Bruce Cassidy's got to be smiling for months because that's what they did. Excuse me. And they kicked Florida's rear end.
Right.
And as a coach, you got to be saying, They played a perfect game plan. They had a few hiccups in the first. Their goaltender bailed them out, and then they just steamrolled the opposition. It's just the perfect way to play hockey. They're big dudes. They've got skill. They finish their hits. They're physical. They're all over the puck. They cycle. I don't know. I really enjoy watching that brand of hockey. Is there other ways to win? I honestly don't know. Like, you can get skill guys, and you can talk about having the puck or whatever. But come playoff time, AK, you just mentioned all the injuries. Like, if you don't have that physical type element, that finish your check type mindset, I don't know if you can get it done. I honestly don't. Yeah. If you think you're going to skill your way through 4 rounds of that nonsense, I honestly don't think you can do it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, too. Last night was the first time in history that a $10 million player won a cup.
Jack Eichel, yeah.
Which, it was going to be anyways, whether it was Bobrovsky or Eichel.
Yeah.
But, it comes back to, it speaks to volumes of managing your cap, too, right? And again, everyone's going to point to, wow, they were over the cap, all of that. But there were other teams that played the same game as far as being over the cap and managing LTIR, all of that. It's just Vegas's group came together. Health is a big factor. I'll be honest, I didn't think Mark Stone was going to finish the playoffs. Like, the way that Edmonton targeted his back, there were times they were cross-checking him. You could tell he was in considerable pain.
Who knows if that guy ever plays again, Jamie?
I don't know,
he's had
but
2 back surgeries.
It's worth
He
the
just
cup.
got the cup. He's got a boatload of cash. Like some doctor might look at his back and then talk to him and say, I don't know if it's worth it for you, man. You want to walk around later in life? Like, I don't know the situation with his back, but he's got to be thinking, how much do I really want to risk here? Or do I want to be Teemu Selanne for a couple years and show up in February and start riding a bike and then jump in, join the playoffs and say, guys, let's make a run? That's what I'd be doing.
Well, either way, I mean, that was a textbook win. And when you look at it, they deserve to win it. Like, it wasn't that long ago, like I think in January, we'll say, where Edmonton was struggling. You look at Vegas was a team that was kind of up and down, gone through goaltenders, Logan Thompson injured. We were talking about that Pacific. LA wasn't great. You know, they were kind of it being that Pacific, like it was East versus West, and the East was superior. And then what happened is the West caught up in points, and by the end it was like, oh, Vegas had 111 points. Edmonton had 109 or whatever. Like, you know, Seattle had 100 points and did some damage. Like, it was interesting. And then it's a Western team, the 2 years in a row now that have won it, where you've got Colorado last year and Vegas this year. And I don't know if it was a case where the Eastern team beat the hell out of each other and there was nothing left. It was more, you know, you could argue, I guess, that Florida limped their way in, but you know, Vegas was healthy and they got it done.
Well, there'll be a lot of people pointing to that Vegas-Edmonton series as the real Stanley Cup, and that was an incredible series, no doubt. And maybe those were the two best teams, but at the end of the day, I mean, Florida earned it too, and they're going to pay for it in the short term and the long term. I don't know if we have the Paul Maurice clip, guys, queued up. Paul Maurice talking about the future of the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
Give me the thumbs up if we do. And, I mean, he doesn't sound optimistic about what his team is going to look like next season. Go ahead.
Aaron Ekblad broke his foot in the Boston series. He popped his shoulder out twice, passed a concussion test, tore his oblique, then went up the ice the other night and drove the puck into the offensive zone. We tied the game, and he scored tonight. So, I don't know. We got 4 broken bones. We've got 3 shoulders that are going to have to get taken care of. We've got oblique tears. It's not an excuse. So we don't need one. These guys earned the right. They gave everything they had.
Impressive. Like, honestly, like it's impressive to see. And I liked it. He goes on to say, like, we don't need one. We're happy. We're proud of them. But ultimately, like, you look at that laundry list, health is a big factor in winning. Now, I don't even know if they were 100% healthy. I don't even know if they beat that team. Like, the Vegas was that well-rounded, that well-coached.
That's exactly right, Jamie. They could be 100% healthy, and they still might not have had a sniff against that Vegas team.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I don't know if you guys watched, like, the celebrations. Bruce Cassidy, it took him a while to get smiling. Like, it was weird. Like, it was almost like maybe it was too much or whatever, but through the lineup, he was just shaking hands, being respectful and that. I didn't see him kind of go crazy afterwards until he got the cup and stuff. There were other guys that were celebrating. Like, even, I think there was 20 seconds left in the game, and Florida just circled back and said, okay, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
They were throwing their
they were storming the bench the goalie with 8 seconds left in the game. The clock's still running.
I know, the clock's still running.
Yeah, as you can see right up there, with 4 seconds left, they're coming on the ice. But, I mean, I don't know if you guys feel the same, and I don't get emotional very often, but I feel like whenever the Stanley Cup is being handed out, and I have no kinship to Mark Stone or Jonathan Marchessault or Alex Pietrangelo, but just seeing, like, the culmination of their lives, of everything they've worked towards. And it just, like, kind of brings it out of me. It's just so cool to see the jubilation on their faces.
AK.
I love
it. The reason is because for a lot of guys, and I'm talking about a big majority of the NHL, doing what Mark Stone did, getting that cup from Gary Bettman, is just an idea. Like, it's just an idea. And the closest I got was playing in the finals, and that was it. We won one game, and then we got absolutely crushed by the Detroit Red Wings. And that's all it stayed, was an idea. I got to hear another team get called out and lifted up, and it's just like, God, this sucks so bad. To get that far, to go how far Florida did, and you literally get nothing. You get this trophy right here. And that's all you get. You don't get to say I'm a Stanley Cup champion, but it's just an idea to actually grab it and lift it up. And that's why you just see the joy in the guys' faces and why they freak out. They're like, I can't believe I'm actually doing this.
I say this to everybody who gets their pretty much the first 5 games of their career. When somebody gets called up, you see they play well a lot of times. And I always say, well, they've been preparing for it their whole lives. Since they were 5 years old, playing road hockey, going, I'm going to play in the NHL. I'm going to do this. And so it doesn't matter how much sleep they've had, what they've had to eat, whatever. You've mentally prepared to play in the NHL your whole life. And once you get there, it's like, okay, it's so overwhelming. Those first 5 games are on adrenaline. And then you kind of settle in and go, okay, can I stay here? For how long am I going to stay here type of thing? Same thing going deep in the playoffs. It's like you're dreaming of that. It's so far away. I made it to the second round twice. That was it. But it just seems like a lifetime away. You're close, but you're so far away. Like, to imagine those guys, if you're Florida, you're losing, you jump on the bird, whether it's today or tomorrow, like, it would break my heart. Oh, you went through it. But I can't imagine waking up Vegas today. Like, I won.
Waking up, they still haven't gone to sleep.
Well, exactly. Like, Phil Kessel's won 3 times. Yes, he didn't play, and I loved his comments. Like, Phil's a folk hero. But
like, you guys in Toronto didn't think I could win. I'm a 3-time Cup champ. And his hair was a mess.
Oh, that beard.
His salad was out of control. I was like,
out of control.
Just put a hat on, put a champion's hat on, and skate around. But he was out there. I think what happened was guys were rubbing his head, because I was dying laughing, because I was trying to zone in on, okay, where's Phil? Because he was kind of floating around the outside, and it was
that's
great.
what I was like. We were all looking for him. We're like, where is that Phil? Because some of us thought that he might have been too proud to put his gear on and wheel out on the ice and skate around as one of the guys, the Black Aces or whatever.
Yeah.
But good for him, man. And who knows? How old is Phil? He's got to be 34, 35. Yeah. He might just get in a golf cart and drive to a course and say, thank you very much,
possible.
NHL. That's enough for me. Thank you very much.
He's 35, so he'll be actually 36 in October. So, I mean, you're right. That might be check please for him.
Yeah, Jonathan Quick, same thing. 3 cups. Thank you very much. See you later. Unreal.
Like Quick, I think, is a Hall of Famer just based on his body of work.
Agreed. Kessel, though, is going to be a very interesting case when he comes up. He's got 400 and I believe 13 goals. I guess you give him 3 cups, but I mean, the ones in Pittsburgh, say what you will about the one in Vegas that he won last night. He was part of the team, but still, I mean, he's going to have a fascinating case.
I say no, because he wasn't a point-a-game guy. Like, I don't know why, and I don't know what the criteria is.
The criteria is crazy, Jamie, because you can say that, and I can say no as well, but then you look at guys in the past that don't make sense as well, and then you're like, well, if that guy goes in, Phil should go in.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
I
say Marian Hossa was a fantastic hockey player, but when you think about it, was he like a better player than Jeremy Roenick or Walt Tkachuk, Keith Tkachuk?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if he was. He was an unbelievable player, but I think of Keith Tkachuk and Jeremy Roenick as Hall of Fame players.
Yeah.
Curtis Joseph, I think he's got the 4th most wins in the history of the game, and he's not in yet. It's like, what the hell else do you have to do as a goalie? And he played with ties.
I know. I just
played with ties.
I played with ties. I think I have like 35 ties in my career, which is crazy. Like, even if we had overtime or shootout, maybe I would have got another 10.
Maybe a Hall of Fame career, Noodles. Who knows?
No, definitely not. But the point being is, like, back then, we forget when there was ties back there and not 3-point games, all of these things. So, interesting. But I look at Kessel. I'm happy for him. And if that's calling it a career, he's had a pretty damn good career either way. And same thing with Jonathan Quick and some other guys. The big thing now is, now that the season's over, there's going to be the buyout window. I was bugging one of my Leaf buddies who's a huge fan this morning. I'm like, well, Leafs are probably Cup favorites today, aren't they? Like, is it
second? I couldn't believe it. Second.
What?
Edmonton Oilers are third. Colorado first. I saw it last night. It was posted. FanDuel.
Yeah.
Colorado Avalanche favored to win the Cup. Guess who's second? Toronto Maple Leafs third. Edmonton Oilers. I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
That's just being bet up by the fan base.
Oh,
AK, you know betting. That's just sucking in the fans.
That's exactly it. Well, think about where the majority of the money on FanDuel comes from. From Ontario, from Toronto, right? It's like, let's put the Leafs up there. People will be sucked
Sprinkle
in.
them right in there.
Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year. And
what kind of juice are you paying? I don't even know what the numbers are.
You're not getting a lot of value betting on the Leafs to win the Cup. And I'm sure FanDuel is like, yeah. Come on. Keep hammering the Leafs. They made a lot of money on that over the years. But you mentioned the buyout window. I mean, with the Leafs and Matt Murray, I mean, that question mark is going to be a big one in the coming weeks. And like, there could be a lot of movement. And we say this every year, like literally every year. The insiders are like, oh, guys, You're not going to believe how many trades.
They make big promises, busy. Pierre LeBrun has told us 5 years in a row it's going to get nuts around the draft, fellas.
Insane.
Draft ends, it's like, what the hell? There was not one transaction.
And then free agency, it's like that player assigned you're like bit piece, like you're
exactly.
literally like you're always dying for like a massive move. Yeah. I do believe that. I think all hell's going to break loose. I really do.
I hope so, fellas.
I mean, look at what's going to happen in Winnipeg. Something has to happen.
I think it's going to go even further because if they're going different places where good players have to go back, there's probably a bunch of guys going to get moved that have no idea or that anybody else had any idea. So I do think that it's going to go down. I actually do this time.
I agree.
Winnipeg, Calgary, Toronto, who knows?
Well, Toronto's got 10 unrestricted free agents. Can't sign them all. You got to sort it out. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a ton of movement.
Exciting times in the world of sports, especially in the National Hockey League. Again, the Vegas Golden Knights are the Stanley Cup champs. They win 9-3 last night in Game 5, beating the Florida Panthers. We have Deryk Engelland on the show, longtime NHL D-man, former special assistant to the owner of the Vegas Golden Knights, Bill Foley, who I imagine is very pleased that his prediction 6 years ago came true. The Golden Knights are indeed Stanley Cup champions. Engelland will join us on the other side. Darren Dreger coming up. We'll play role play level of concern. Keegan Matheson, who covers the Jays, ahead of Game 2. Oh, man, that was a thrashing last night of Chris Bassett. My goodness. Baltimore is nasty. They have so many good young players, and they just teed off on Bassett. We'll get to that with Keegan later. And Dan Rappaport live from the U.S. Open, which begins tomorrow from L.A. Country Club. Fired up for that. Fired up for all 3 hours of Overdrive here on TSN4, TSN 1050, and the iHeartRadio Canada app. Overdrive continues. Aaron Korolnek in for Brian Hayes. Brian will be back on Monday. Noodles is here. The O-Dog is here. Deryk Engelland will be here in just a moment, a broadcaster with the Vegas Golden Knights. And I always wonder, you're a broadcaster for the team. Noodles, you cover the Sens, but you're not going out and partying with them if they win the Stanley Cup, right? Or maybe you are.
No, but he's a little bit more unique. He's a day oneer for the Vegas Golden Knights. He played for them. He's entwined with ownership, everything. So we might have to ask him, what's his, does he get involved or is he on the outer layer? But I guarantee you, people forget when Vegas first started, they had that massacre.
That shooting right outside the arena.
What is it? 60 people died. It was the most horrific thing you've ever experienced or seen. Those guys were going training camp. This was their first inaugural year, and I believe Engelland had to speak their first game and acknowledge it, everything, and he nailed it out of the park. It was just such an emotional thing they had to go through. And that was the start of their franchise, the start. And they, we joke it's 6 years or whatever, but that's a terrible tragedy to start on. And they made the finals that year. Yeah, exactly. They made the finals that year. Unbelievable.
It is. And the whole path of the Vegas Golden Knights truly is remarkable. The expansion draft, and I think a lot of people were surprised at the reception that our boy Jerry got from the fans in Vegas. It should have been a standing.
He was yucking it up with the crowd.
He was loving it.
Boy,
I think he was like, they're not booing me. I'm going to do a little comedy act here to see how far I can take this.
Yeah, well,
loving it.
Stunning development for Bettman, who has been booed every single year for the last 30 years, whatever it's been since he's been commissioner. But the Vegas fans should be applauding Bettman because the expansion rules that they put in place were extremely advantageous.
Yes, they were.
To the roster. I'm not saying that's the reason they won. But you look at the 6 misfits, they call them, who were there from the beginning. And, listen, Marchessault and Riley Smith came from Florida, right?
Okay, there was a lot of wrongdoings from other teams by guessing on the wrong guys and getting absolutely butchered in the process. I'll give you a bunch of stuff to take the wrong guy. And they were taking the better players. Shea Theodore, they were take this and that, and don't take Hampus Lindholm, but you can have Theodore. Watching that's insane.
I think it was take Clayton Stoner to not touch Hampus Lindholm, and we'll give you Shea Theodore. Something like that. It was holy smokes.
There was all kinds of silly transactions. Riley Smith, Marchessault, take them. off of Florida, I think, for something else. I don't know. It was crazy. So there was a lot of wrongdoings by all the other teams that went into panic mode, and it was like guarding the wrong guy. It was crazy stuff.
Let's welcome in Deryk Engelland, longtime NHL D-man, AT&T Golden Knights analyst. Deryk, thank you for doing this. If you had to take a breathalyzer right now, would you pass?
We don't have it.
Oh, is he there? Oh, I don't know. I guess.
I think we lost him. Or he hung up on you.
He's just like, I do not appreciate that question at all.
No.
But, we'll work to get Deryk back.
Well, like I say, he was a day oneer, played 79 games that first year. And I believe he was part of the leadership group, all of that. He came from Calgary, so he had a great reputation with the Flames. And then you go over there in expansion and kind of cement. Now, I believe he lives in that area year round. I believe his wife is from that area.
Yeah.
Not 100%.
That's it. Yes. And listen, he's a guy who's been there from the beginning. He's seen the rise. And I think perhaps the most fascinating part of this is not necessarily a hockey angle, but it's just sports in the area, right?
Yeah.
Where before the NHL, it was the 151s, like the AAA baseball team. They were the only show in town. Now you have the NHL, the Stanley Cup champs. The Raiders are there.
Yeah.
You know the NBA's coming. You know Major League Baseball's coming.
Is an Oakland coming there
of course.
eventually?
So you're talking about like 7-8 years.
Why was the delay? What was the delay for so long? Was it the fear of the gambling?
Well, that's exactly it. And now you have the Vegas Golden Knights who have Circa Sports on their jerseys.
Yeah.
Which is a very significant casino in the city. It's unbelievable how quickly the tune has changed in Vegas with pro sports. And you know exactly why.
Well,
it's money. It's
absolutely,
money.
But there's nothing wrong with that. I'm excited. We got to ask Deryk about the time of the parade.
Yes. All right, let's bring him in. Deryk, are you with us?
I'm here. Thanks for having me, guys.
It's our pleasure. How you feeling this afternoon? Any after effects after a big night of celebrations?
No, I'm feeling pretty good. I just had to be up early and take my kids to sports this morning, so I kind of shut it down pretty early last night, and I'll save it for Saturday for the parade.
So we were talking before you came on. Because you're a day oneer, you're entwined with the organization, obviously loved by the guys in the dressing room. Like, where is your layer? Like, are you right there with the group with the cup last night, or do you kind of let them run and you're on the secondary layer? Where was your your level of access last night?
Yeah, I was upstairs with all the people from the office and broadcasters and all that stuff. So that's all them. They get to enjoy what they put all this effort in from, and I just get to enjoy from afar and just still be a part of it and watch the city explode.
Deryk, was it still, although you guys went to the Cup final in year one, and I know the owner, Foley, said, we're going to win a Cup within 6 years, and that's a great thing to say and to have that ambition. But to actually see Mark Stone get the Stanley Cup, or is there a part of you that's like, holy crap, like I can't believe that just happened?
Oh, yeah, it's been 6 years of holy crap, I can't believe that just happened, from the get-go. Even making playoffs that first year and it was far-fetched going into the season, and then to make it to the finals. And, like you said, Bill Foley said Cup in 6, and for that to come true, it's crazy how it works. But, I think it all started that first year, get a little taste, and everyone in the league seeing how Vegas is a sports town now, and what Foley's put in Vegas. Guys want to play here. It's a great place to play and live, and I'm sure you're going to see a lot more guys trying to get here too.
Do you think that that year one, was it all stemming down from the owner? Like, is he a hands-on guy, a passionate guy? Obviously, we saw him. There was times in the playoffs, and especially in the finals, he was on the bench, like high-fiving guys in warm-up and stuff. Like, is he a guy that's visible, or does he kind of just let the guys do their thing during the season?
No, he's around. He, practice days, he's always down there having breakfast with us, and not getting into the hockey side, but he's just like one of the guys down there. So it's great to see. It makes you comfortable with him and what he's all done. And, you see, it seems like every venture he goes in, he definitely goes in head first, doesn't dip his toe in, and he expects the best. And that's what he gets. You don't become that successful from just feeling things out. He goes all in, and it's shown over the last 6 years.
Deryk, you played the game physical style. Like, just watching that team throughout the playoffs, and there's a lot of smarty pants these days that have different ways of putting value into things that go on the ice, but just talk about the importance of like playing for keeps, physicality, big strong defenseman, and like how that spearheaded this team throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. It gets brought up a lot. I almost compare the 2014 LA defensive core. They were massive, and they kind of set the tone. I think, big guys, but now they're just so much more mobile. And, your top guys, Pietrangelo is not a small guy. Theodore, I think 6'2", 6'3", so it's a big back end, but they're mobile and they can move the puck, and I think you need both of that in long runs, especially with the way they shut down and take care of the front of the net. It's a big change from even the previous couple of years.
Deryk Engelland is our guest. He is a longtime NHL defenseman, AT&T Sports Golden Knights analyst. You mentioned the parade, which is coming up Saturday, 7 o'clock local time. Like, what do you know about what that's going to look like? The celebrations that will occur deep into the night, I imagine, and any players on the Golden Knights team who you might be a little bit concerned about?
No, I don't know a whole lot of details. I don't know if there's a whole lot of details yet. I know it's going to come down the strip for sure, and I think it's ending at the plaza, but it's still so fresh, and it's not like a normal city where you can just shut down a road for a little bit. It's a little bit more difficult to do, and it's crazy that it's going to be on a Saturday, and I'm just excited to see the turnout and what's all going to happen that day.
Do you think the Golden Knights, like, you know how you have exit meetings and stuff, you guys might be the first group of players that are told to just get out of town, like leave and go to your cottage and get out of here because that's enough?
Oh, man, I don't know. Well, the awards are, a week and a bit away, so I'm sure some guys are going to stick around and, enjoy it for a week. But, yeah, they probably, after they get tired of it, you remove yourself from that if you can, and, it's not a long summer, so I'm sure some guys will take some time off. But, yeah, get back to the cottage, get out of we've been lucky right now. It's been in the 90s, but the hundreds are coming, I'm sure, and guys hopefully, I'm sure, are ready to get out before then.
Do you want to educate the fan base here on what Vegas is like to play for them? And what I mean by that, you guys don't live on the Strip. You're not at, you're not having lunch at, the Palazzo or wherever like
joint.
that. Like you guys, is your daily routine, you guys are in a suburb, you practice there, like you're somewhat removed from the hustle and bustle of the Strip, correct?
Oh, yeah. You don't, you stay clear of the Strip unless, it's nice to have in your backyard when you want to go for a show and dinner or something. But on a normal basis, you're staying clear of there. It's the construction with F1 is insane down there right now, so it's even more of a mess. But there's so many good restaurants off the strips, and it's a very, you come to Vegas and you expect the Strip, but it's a very outdoorsy city. There's I get a side-by-side. I'm out in the desert with my boys and my wife all the time. There's some great riding around, good hiking, biking. It's very, very outdoorsy, and then on top of that, you're close to everything. There's ski hills, a couple hours away. The beach is a 4-hour drive if you want to do that, or a $75 flight on Southwest out there. So there's a lot in the area to do, and like I said, you stay clear of the Strip unless you're planning something down there.
Are you guys going to have to wrestle the cup away from Gary Lawless?
Oh, I'm sure he'll try to get his hands on it as much as he can. Gary.
It's in his backyard right now, having a steak. I can see the picture coming on Twitter right now.
For sure.
Well, congratulations. An amazing season for the Golden Knights. I know you covered it throughout, and it should be a wild time this weekend. So enjoy it, and we'll do this again next year.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot for having me, guys.
All right, that is Deryk Engelland, AT&T Sports Golden Knights analyst. Do you think there's ever been exit meetings at the Spearmint Rhino? Maybe we're going to find out.
I think that's the one scenario you don't have an exit meeting is when you win the Stanley Cup. Like, I don't think a general manager or a coach is going to bitch and complain that you had 7 fewer goals than expectation. Like, I think it's put to the wayside this year.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what Cup winners, like if they have exit meetings, it's probably just like, hey guys, like we'll be in touch here. Like the one thing, and maybe, when we talk to Craig Button next, I remember when they won the Cup in Dallas, I think that was 99, I think they traded Roman Turek, their backup goaltender, like the day after, the day of the parade, something like they traded him to Calgary, I believe. It was something crazy where it was like they were still winning the Cup, but they have business. Like Vegas has got a draft right around the corner. They've got stuff to take care of. They actually have business to take care of where the players are like, we'll see you in, September type of thing. That's the biggest challenge. But the business side of hockey is it's game on for next season. So it'll be interesting to see because some of these guys, like a guy like Barbashev, I think he's going to get paid. Like somebody's going to give that guy some cash.
I was talking to my buddy in Carolina, Jamie, and he goes, I hope the Canes get this Barbashev. And I said, you know what? I didn't know a ton about him because he was in St. Louis, and I don't know. It was one of those players where Russian player, and it's like I don't know a ton about him, but then you saw him in the spotlight in that Vegas series, and I don't think he was really a spotlight player for the Blues when they won the Cup. I think he was more of a third-line guy. But I'll tell you what, man, that guy's big. He makes life difficult on the forecheck. He's got skill. Like, people should be drooling over signing that cat.
Yeah,
drooling.
well, and it's not exactly the most robust list of free agents either. You're not talking about, an incredible crop. I mean, Patrick Kane's out there, and Ryan O'Reilly's out there, Michael Bunting's out there, but Barbashev's going to get paid. And we've seen it over the years, right, where you have a huge playoff. I remember
he might be the top of that list of the players
you
just mentioned, AK.
I know. Yeah. And you remember Ville Leno had that unbelievable play. Yeah, and he got a huge ticket. And,
and it didn't work out.
Well, it didn't work out. And I think you got to be careful if you're a National Hockey League GM. Barbashev was great. I think he's a really good player, but I need to give him $5 million a year for long term. I could have the same.
He's getting that all day. He's getting that all day.
But you know what? Like, I think he can live up to it. My question: Aiden Hill's going to get paid. Okay, but what is Aiden Hill as a regular season goaltender? Depends on the setting, right? Is he a tandem guy? Is he a starter? He got the job done, and good for him. And I still think he, should have been in the Conn Smythe conversation. I'm sure he was. But at the end of the day, is he going to be Scott Darling, who won a cup in Chicago, and then Carolina signed him as his number one, and it never worked out? Or is he better than that? I think he's better than that. But ultimately, Aiden Hill, somebody's going to pay that guy because he went and earned it.
And Binnington, think about the run he had in 2019 with the Blues. He got a big ticket.
$6 million a year.
And say what you will about his performance since then. But
he hasn't been good enough at 6 sheets a year.
Got to be careful. Got to be careful not to overreact to. But everyone's eyes are on you. Everyone's watching every single game, analyzing every single play. And, you can get caught up in a little bit. But I don't know. We'll see how it plays out for those two. But needless to say, instrumental for the Vegas Golden Knights. I'm sure they want them back.
Yeah.
I mean, Vegas, I don't know what they're going to do in goal, considering all the injuries they had. But
they've got Logan Thompson there, who made the All-Star team 2 years ago. He's a good young
goalie. They had 5 goalies on the ice.
They had 5
cup around. There's 5 goalies. Jerry Brossoit came out. Logan Thompson was out there. Johnny Quick. Aiden Hill, I think, was the 4th goalie to get the cup.
Yeah, and then Sean Burke, your buddy, our buddy, Berkey was out there, who's a great goalie coach. Or goalie, whatever he is, head of goaltender development there. But it was awesome. But you're right; they all had their gear on. I thought they should have done like a loop just with the goalies, like the 4 of them. And they had Robin Lehner, who wouldn't get his name on the cup because he wasn't with them, and then another guy named Patura, who won 2 games for them this year. They used 6 goalies this year.
Lehner was just injured, so why wasn't he with them? Like did he say he was retiring or something?
I have no idea. I actually, to be honest, once that name came up today, I think somebody asked me about it. I was like, you forgot he was a part of the equation there. Like, really, it's, that's a guy. He was going to be their number 1 goaltender. And now you're down. Aiden Hill wins them a cup. That's how good he played, and that's how good that team was.
Yeah, and people point to all the expansion draft, and they did such a good job with trades and signing Pietrangelo, trading for Stone, trading for Eichel.
As you mentioned, AK, that's where you have to be careful. And Kelly McCrimmon is a very smart guy, and I'm super happy for him. You got to assess Aiden Hill and say, is this going to be our guy? Are we going to invest in this guy to be a 1A goaltender for us for the next 2 or 3 years or whatever the duration is? Or did this guy just pull one out of his rear end for the last 2 months and win us a cup? And that's up for him to decide. Like, that's a big decision to make, because you do not want a Scott Darling situation on your hands where Carolina threw the money at him and he was a gas bag when he got there.
Yeah.
Couldn't stop a puck.
Well, it's you're overwhelmed and you're placed in a situation where you maybe couldn't live up to, where you're asked to be a starter when you're more of a tandem guy or something like that. Aiden Hills deserves a big contract. It's probably not going to be with Vegas based on what they have. And I don't think they got a ton of cap room. I didn't look before we chatted.
Who does?
Well, nobody. There are teams that have cap room, but they're the ones that are hunting. They're the ones that have to be there. I think Ottawa's looking for a goaltender. Buffalo's looking for a goaltender. There are teams that are looking for goalies. I mean, Carolina needs a goalie. Freddie Anderson's on the market right now. So are they going to work it out with Freddie, or are they going to let him go and try and grab somebody else?
We'll ask Darren Dreger those questions and more. He's going to join us in about 20 minutes here on OverDrive. You're listening on TSN 1050, watching on TSN 4 on the iHeartRadio Canada app. Back on OverDrive, Korolnek in for Hayes. Brian will be back on Monday. Noodles is here, and the O-Dog. We'll talk to our hockey insider, Darren Dreger, in about 15 minutes. Keegan Matheson coming up at 6:05. The Jays just get crushed. Last night in Baltimore, they give up 17 hits.
That was ugly.
17 hits to the O's. And Bassett was just on fire. He was rolling into that start.
Isn't it going to be that their faith, AK? Like, their fate? Like, how they can respond against the AL East? Because they're getting shredded by the AL East right now.
6-16 are the Toronto Blue Jays against the AL East.
Isn't it not going to be their whole season, how they, like, respond and finish the way? Because it never fails. I think obviously Major League Baseball probably sets it up this way. But coming down the stretch, it always is like home Baltimore, at Yankees, at Tampa. It's something like that. Right. Someone might have to check this year, but it usually ends up like that. And if they don't get it together, like, it could be the main deciding factor.
Well, the schedule in Major League Baseball did change this year in that teams play their own division less than they did in past years. So I suppose you could look at that
for more interleague play?
Well, yeah, just kind of more of a diversification of the teams that you'd see coming to your town. So I suppose you could look at that as a positive and a negative for the Jays, in that, yes, you play the teams less, but you also have less opportunities to catch up to them.
Exactly.
Like, Baltimore's, I think, 6.5 games up on the Jays right now. And this team is just loaded. Keegan will tell us, the number of prospects that they have. Like, they have a bunch of, like, Bedards and Fantillis just percolating in AAA, waiting to come up and start mashing the baseball. That's a team that is here to stay, and they're here right now. Yeah. But their present and their future, I would not be looking at that team as anything but the team to beat for the next 5-10 years.
That was a rough game yesterday. Watching that, like, you blink and it's like, okay, what was it? It was 4-1 and then the grand slam. It was 8-1. I'm like, okay, this is done.
Curtains.
That's curtains. And it just made it over the wall, too. I thought Kiermaier was going to grab it, but it just, honestly, that you get to that point and now I was back and forth given the hockey game on, so I was like, all right, this is 10-2.
I can turn this one off. I don't need to check in tonight. Well, it's Barrios tonight, so he's been really good. But, I mean, I guess Bassett's been really good, too. And the O's just have all these left-handed bats that just crush the baseball.
Crushing it.
So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes tonight.
Hey, they kind of deserve it. They were so bad for so long, right?
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
They were garbage. They were the laughingstock of the AL East. Worst team in the league. I think if you're a fan of the Baltimore Orioles, you would say that this is well overdue.
Yeah, and how about the Oakland A's last night? Filling the stadium, the reverse boycott. They win their 7th in a row. This team, they're still like 13-60 or whatever it is. They're absolutely horrible, but it was good to see there's fans come out and support.
What is the reverse boycott? They're just like showing up now?
As kind of a statement to ownership, showing, we're real fans here. There's a lot of fan support. But
ownership's not buying that one, AK. They're like, you guys haven't been here for 15 years and you want to show up one night? I don't care.
Well, 7 wins in a row for the red-hot Oakland A's. We'll get into that with Keegan a little bit later. We'll also talk to Dan Rappaport live from the U.S. Open, which begins tomorrow at L.A. Country Club. Hour 2 of OverDrive on the other side. Darren Dreger and Role Play Level of Concern here on TSN 1050, TSN 4, and the TSN app.